Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here on another episode of Extreme Health Radio. Glad to have you aboard. If this is your first time listening, this is episode 542, and we do shows twice a week, and we have, like I said, 540 other shows, 540, I guess, one other shows that you can actually go back and take a listen to and peruse our archives. We cover everything in natural health, natural healing, energy healing, spirituality, personal development, and all kinds of cool subjects like that. So if you're here, we're glad you're here. Oh, I just had a long day. We've got so much to get to in this episode. I hope I have enough time to get through it, actually. Today was a big day for self-care for me. I don't know if you guys ever feel like this, but does it ever feel like to you that taking care of yourself is almost like a full-time job? Ah, man, for me it does. There are so many little things that I do every single day, and it's, when you add them all up, they take a long time. It takes a long time to take care of yourself if you really work at it. So today, oh gosh, I made coffee. I made some organic coffee. I made some coconut milk. I feel like I spent all day in the kitchen. I made some coconut milk. I made some almond milk. What else did I make? I made, 4 different types of medicinal mushroom tea. And then I added them all back together, and it made like probably 10 or 12 full mason jars full. I made a ton of tea today. It took most of the day. And then I made a green juice, which I haven't made a green juice in a little while, so it was nice to get back to that. And then I did all that in the sort of in between working out. So I have my little gym and my adjustable weights that I do in the backyard, and I try to do that, stay grounded, get some sunlight, get some fresh air, and work out outside. So in the middle of sets, I was inside in the kitchen swapping out teas, and it's like, oh man, it's just crazy, right? I mean, it's all stuff I love to do, but it's interesting when it all happens on the same day. You feel like you spend most of your day in the kitchen. But you know what's cool is now I'm going to be able to freeze some of that tea I made, because I made enough to where there's no way I could drink all this stuff, in one go. So I'm going to have to freeze some of this medicinal tea into ice cubes, and but I use it in a lot of different ways. I use it in smoothies. I use it just to drink. I use it to make, coffee. I'll mix it with coffee and add some nice healthy fats into it. And so I make that in the morning, and all kinds of cool stuff. So the medicinal tea is just something I would invite you guys to look into. If you haven't worked with herbs yet, you can go on the Mountain Rose Herbs and buy like a pound of reishi or chaga tea, and really, really make some nice tea, and then you can have that as a base and put it in mason jars, store it in the fridge, and really, really do some cool things with it after that. You can make almond milk with it after that, or you can, take the cold tea and blend it up with some nuts and seeds and make like an almond milk tea kind of base, and then you can use that for smoothies, and it's pretty cool stuff. And I've been working a lot with medicinal mushrooms lately, so we got a ton of stuff to get to today. I want to share with you some documentaries that I've watched recently, some YouTube videos. I want to share with you, I actually have a question for you, and I'll ask you that later. I'm really curious about your take on this. I want to share with you a couple stories. I want to share with you a book that I'm reading that I think you guys would love. I'm actually rereading it. I read it years ago. I discovered a new podcast I think you guys might like. Most people say, well, why would you refer other people to other podcasts? Aren't they competition, or aren't they, wouldn't they steal listeners from you? And, to me, there's more than enough to go around. And, this is a former guest of ours. I love his podcast. I've been listening to him for years, and he's a cool guy. So I'll share with you what that is. A couple show recaps. I want to go over the last couple shows. I got some listener questions here for you. Also got some links on, we're going to be talking about aspartame. I read an article recently that was very much heavily a proponent of aspartame, which was pretty interesting. And the guy's a pretty prolific writer. We did a whole show about aspartame, so I'll talk about that in just a second. I want to talk with you guys about some tattoo. There's some studies now that are showing tattoo ink could cause cell mutation in cancer. We'll talk about that. And I want to talk with you guys also about all of these doctors that have been dying. You know, if you guys are on our newsletter list, you know we've been talking about this lately, and some of them have been our former guests and or guests that we've been working on getting on that have now passed away. So I want to talk about that, as well as a little recipe for black salve that you can make at home. And lastly, I want to tell you guys about some interesting information about Wi-Fi. So as you guys know, we work a lot with that in terms of trying to shield ourselves. So first of all, let me and I got some listener questions too that I like to read and play. So let me just tell you about a couple good documentaries I think you guys might like. Actually, these two aren't documentaries; they're more just sort of speeches and talks. But you know, this Friday show that I do with you guys, it's so cool because there's so much that I learn every single day because, you know, for much of the day, if no one's here and I'm just doing kind of chores around the house, or I'm doing my rebounder outside, or if I'm working out outside, or if I'm walking the dogs, you know, I love to listen to podcasts, and I love to, you know, I do that while I lay in the sauna as well. And so I love to be able to have you guys as like a sounding board and to all come together and just sort of get all this stuff off my chest that I've been learning. One of them was a talk that Michael Tellinger gave in 2017 called Sound Resonance, Magnetics, and Reality. If you guys aren't familiar with Michael Tellinger, he's a really interesting guy. He's a South African guy. I've been down to South Africa before. Beautiful country, amazing people. And he's doing some really interesting work. So what he does is he looks into like ancient cultures, ancient civilizations, and he is of the proponent that everything that we've ever learned is basically a lie. Now, I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't say it's a lie because I don't think that many of these people know what they're doing. I don't think, but I guess that makes it a lie, right? I mean, just because they don't know, does that you know, take it away that it's not a lie? I don't know. You know, it seems like a lie to me is intentional, right? But basically what he's talking about is like history, spirituality, religion, politics, money, banking, all of these really high level things that are in our lives that are sort of the foundation of all our lives. Everything is a lie, according to him. And it's really interesting talk. It's called Sound Resonance. So what he does is he goes really into the sound magnetics and how sound frequencies affect the body, and how perhaps ancient cultures and ancient civilizations used sound resonance in a very unique way in order to create a lot of these megalithic stone structures like the pyramid, the Great Pyramid in Giza, as well as there's so many other monuments around the world too that you know, the ancient cultures built, and we have no idea how they did that. So Michael Tellinger talks about sound and how frequency, sound has been used to boil water. It's been used to create heat. It's been used to create DNA, if you could believe it. And it creates structure and form out of nothing. And it's really, really fascinating talk. So I will link it up in this show page too. Michael Tellinger, interesting guy. And so what that made me think about is I've been using this IMRS mat lately, which I think that you guys might really, really like this thing. It's a mat that you lay on, and one of our friends on Instagram asked, you know, is this a grounding mat? According to Bryant Myers, who we talked on episode, let me make sure I get this, I think 500, let me make sure I get this correct, 541, it's not a grounding mat, but it does cancel out using some technology that plugs into the wall. At the wall, it converts this negative 60 hertz frequency that we use here in the United States. It converts that and mitigates that. But anyway, this IMRS mat is it's a PEMF, so it's pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. And for those that aren't aware, PEMF, we've done some shows on that with Bryant Myers as well as Marcus Freudenman. It's a really interesting way to use magnetic therapy to affect the cells and the nerve cells of the body to help regenerate and restore the body. It's quite a healing mat, and I've been using that a lot lately. And I tell you what, I've noticed some really interesting things for myself. I really like this thing a lot, and So I've been noticing some significant benefits in my sleep. For some reason, it also makes me pee a lot. I'm not sure why, but I'm peeing like a lot more. That could be something else, but I don't know. As soon as I started using the mat, I started to pee a lot. So, I can't say that the mat, in fact, is doing that. I don't know for sure. A lot of these things we just don't know, right? Unless we're actually looking into and studying, our exact body at the exact moment. But this pulse electromagnetic field emanates through the body and gets pulsed at different times. So what's cool about it is that if you use it at different times of the day, you'll get different frequencies because it's all based on the time and your location, your physical location on the planet. So and there's different levels that you can put it up to, and there's also the addition to get a pad so that you can take it while you're driving. Because I don't know if you guys have you guys ever used one of those, what are those things called? The tri-field meters. We have one of those things, and it's pretty fascinating. So if you take a tri-field meter and put it in any conventional car, not even like a Prius or anything like that, just any regular car, it will just spike. You are just bathing every time you drive your car in electromagnetic fields. So I'm not sure what you're doing to mitigate that. We'll talk about that later, but you're sitting in a sea, in a swamp of electromagnetic field radiation when you're driving. So this is a way that you can use if you have a car adapter. They sell those as well, but you can use this thing while you're driving, and so you can heal and drive at the same time. It's pretty cool. So I've really been enjoying mine, and you may want to listen to the show. It is episode 541 that we did. So if you just go to extremehealthradio.com/541, you can hear the show that we did with Bryant Myers, all about PEMF, and learn what that does to the body. And so it was interesting watching this documentary by Michael Tellinger about sound, about resonance, about magnetics. And it just kind of confirmed a lot of this same research that we're getting here about this PEMF IMRS 2000 mat. So if, I just put that in the store too. If you guys, actually the best place to go is in our store, because if you go to our store, I've got maybe 7 or 8 videos that you can watch. One is with Dr. Oz, and so there's some really good information about the IMRS if you guys want to learn. What I like a lot is buying some of these health tools, because obviously, it's important to buy organic food and superfoods and super herbs and these types of things, organic meats if you eat meat or animal products, and to buy all that stuff. But the problem with that stuff is it just kind of goes away, right? Once you eat it, it's done. But if you purchase like a rebounder or a sauna or an IMRS mat, all of which we have in our store, these things are like one-time purchases that last, decades probably. So that's what I like about that. Something else, another interesting video I found on YouTube is with a friend of ours, Dr. John Bergman, his colleague, Dr. Mike. I'm not sure how you say his last name. He's got a really long last name, so they just call him Dr. Mike. He did a really interesting talk at Bergman Family Chiropractic over there in Huntington Beach about intermittent fasting. And I'll link that up in this show too. So if you guys want to learn more about this, this is a really cool thing that I've been doing a lot lately, and I would highly recommend you guys look into it. Watch some documentaries, watch this talk here with Dr. Mike, all about the benefits of intermittent fasting. And fasting is something that I feel called to, but only in a way that's manageable for me. So I don't really feel called to do like a 3-day fast or a 5-day fast. Maybe someday I will. But right now in my life, the way things are going, I love doing intermittent fasting because it's something that I can do. It's manageable. It's easy. So the way I do it is there's lots of different ways to do it. A lot of people might fast for 1 day, eat for 2, fast for another day, eat for 2. Some people use like a 4 or 6 hour feeding window. So they only eat during those 4 to 6 hours. And so, that's possibly something I might get into, but right now what I'm doing, and you might want to look into this, I've noticed some really good results with this, and that is eating between the hours of 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. So that's an 8-hour window, and like for example tonight, I was doing my workout. I was making tea. I had to walk the dog. So I was really busy, and I didn't finish eating my dinner until 7 p.m. So that means tomorrow I won't eat anything till 11 p.m. You can have coffee, just not with like coconut oil or butter. And you can have some other things, water. I do clay in the morning, and that doesn't have any calories. That doesn't have any insulin or sugar. Insulin, but it doesn't have any sugar, carbohydrates, anything like that. So I'll do some clay with some water in the morning. I do that every day. So, but this intermittent fasting has really been beneficial. I've really noticed a big change, uptick in my energy. I've noticed, what else have I noticed? Better sleep. But I can't tell if that's from the IMRS mat or the intermittent fasting, because I kind of started both of those around the same time. Let's see. I've noticed a little bit of weight loss around my waist. I don't need to lose weight. I'm about 6 feet 175. Last time I checked. I don't really check very often, but I have noticed that less bloating, more energy, better sleep. I just feel better. And when you go that many hours without eating, your body really gets a chance to repair. And that's what it's all about too. And there's some really interesting research they've done in terms of intermittent fasting, longevity, and cancer prevention. So if that sounds interesting to you, I'll link up this talk that Dr. Mike did over at Bergman Family Chiropractic. I'll put that in the show notes too. One other thing, I have a question for you guys. This kind of hit me the other day when I was working out, and I'm kind of curious about it. I'm wondering if this is something that you would want. Would you guys be interested in health debates? The high school debate model, or I guess protocol, or I'm not sure what you call it, but the high school debate format is something that's not really been applied too much to adult life. And I'm curious. The problem with debates, though, is that both sides typically are unbending and unwilling to concede. So the thing I don't like about debates is that there's a lot of pride and a lot of ego involved, and most people who are involved in debates, you can't convince them that the other side is true. But so I think maybe the purpose of debates is just for the people, that listen. And I thought about doing that, because we get so many people that call in and write in and say, what about paleo or vegan, or even with this IMRS mat, because we promote Marcus's IMRS mat on in our store, and that's a high frequency, it's a high intensity one, and this is a low intensity one. And then Marcus versus Bryant Myers will just say the complete opposite things, right? And so you think, okay, so the way I look at it always is like through the lens of like someone like Adam Bergstrom, who has his really great book called Yes, No, Maybe, Chronobiotic Nutrition. And this is utilizing a third option. And I think that's, really, really key in these types of scenarios. It's not either or, it's perhaps both or none, or sometimes one and sometimes another. Or you can use them at the same time. So, just because someone is for veganism or for paleo or for high intensity PEMF or low intensity PEMF doesn't mean that's always good for you at all times throughout your entire life. So I think it's important to realize that, there is truth in what everyone's saying, and it's not necessarily yes or no and binary and black and white for each person. So, all that to say, I'm curious, would you guys be interested in listening to health debates if we did them in person? So what I'm thinking about is in our studio, we can do them in video, because I have, there's 3 mics, so I could moderate and have a good debate. And, I'm curious if that would be something that you would be interested in. So if it is, what would be the best way to do it? Let me know by... Actually, what I'll do is I'll put a link. I created a little Google quiz kind of a thing. And all it says is, yes or no. So what I'll do is on this show page, extremehealthradio.com/542, I'll put a link about health debates, and you can just click on it and then say yes, say no. And then, based on your feedback, I might look into doing it. And also it would be a little challenging too, because I have to get 2 people that are in our area that are both available at the same time. So it might be something that, we do depending on your feedback. So So I wanted to talk to you guys about all of these doctors that are dying, and I have that kind of ties into an email here. Okay, yeah, so Kathy wrote in, and she says, Potvin, I'm so sorry to hear about Ramil. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, Ramil Nagel, who was on episode 22, I think, of our show. He passed away. And I have no idea. There's no new information as far as what I've looked at. But he's the guy that wrote the book Cure Tooth Decay. So he's really into the traditional diets, the Weston Price, and the traditional foods, and the bone broth and ghee and all that kind of stuff. And so she says, "Hi, Justin. I'm so sorry to hear about Ramil." So she's writing in response to our newsletter that we have that goes out every Monday and Friday. She says, "So young, he looks so healthy, but I don't know the details, so what can I say?" I also heard that Dr. Andy Cutler, a chemist who has helped people heal autism with DMSA and ALA, which my son takes, we learned so much useful information from him. I wonder if you've had him as a guest. So, Kathy, no, we haven't had Dr. Andy Cutler on, and now we are going to be unable to. We were in talks back and forth. We've been working on him for some time, and we just never made it. Same thing happened with Andreas Moritz. We were going to have him. He was actually scheduled to be on the show, and he passed away before he could be on, so it's kind of sad. So going back to her email, she says, they said he had an apparent heart attack. I hope it wasn't something more grim. He obviously didn't eat great with quite a stomach on him. So here she's talking about Dr. Andrew Cutler. In December, Dr. Bob Marshall, PhD, died too. He was about 71. I know you had him on as a guest a long time ago. It seemed like he ate well in many ways, so who knows? He did help a lot of people too. The one thing I didn't agree with him on was that he told a lot of people to avoid oils, including coconut oil. I can never wrap my head around the avoidance of oils. You know, it's funny, Kathy. You know who's just did this recently in terms of oils? What was her name? Let me look. What is her name? She was just on our show. Her name is escaping me right now. Let me go to our website. She was very much against oils, and I disagreed with her a lot on that one. I did not think that she was accurate. Let's see. She was, Cindy Sellers, episode 538. She runs that healing clinic over in Hawaii called Angel Farms, and she's a colon hydrotherapist and colon cleansing specialist, and she has people go over there for retreats every a few months out of the year, and she was very much against oil, so that was interesting too. I, for one, take coconut oil every day. I take ghee every so often. I do like a duck fat every so often, so I disagree with her on that. But, if I learn new information that is convincing, because her argument wasn't convincing to me. Her argument was that there's like a twofold thing to her argument, and that was, one, you will never find a concentration of oils or fats like that in nature. Okay, that was the one thing. And the second thing was, she would see people who would be getting colonics at her clinic there in Hawaii who would be expelling a ton of oil. So my question, or my response to that is, just because someone expels it in a colon hydrotherapy session doesn't necessarily mean that it's unhealthy. Perhaps their body didn't digest it. There's so many factors that goes into that, right? I mean, the people that go get colonics are the type of people that perhaps wouldn't be as healthy anyway, maybe. So, just because it comes out in a colonic doesn't mean, I think we need to really dive deep here. And her other argument against oils was that, you never find this kind of concentration of fats and oils in nature. And that's true. But so many things you wouldn't find in nature too. You wouldn't find EMF protection devices. You wouldn't find computers. You wouldn't find blenders. You wouldn't find juicers. Obviously, if you juice a bunch of fruit, that's going to be too much sugar and that's not good for you. But, if you juice, like go on the Gerson diet and juice vegetables, green leafies and things like that, celery and cucumbers and lemon, these are very healing to the body. So, Just because it's not found in nature doesn't necessarily mean that it's not good for the body. I mean, essential oils are the same way. You never find those in nature, the concentration of oils. And you'd never find the opposite of the spectrum too, homeopathics. You'd never find those in nature. So there's a lot of things you wouldn't find in nature that are healthy. So those two arguments don't fly with me, but that's okay. She has a great retreat center over there in Hawaii, so you guys might want to check it out if you're interested in cleansing and spirituality and taking your detox to another level. But yeah, Kathy, so all these people that have died, let's see. It's just it's so tough because a lot of times we in the natural health community say, well, gosh, if Andreas Moritz and, Ramil Nagel, if they died, then what am I going to do? Right? I mean, geez, like these people are, 10 years ahead of me in terms of where I want to be in health, or, they're much more healthier than I am. So what am I going to do? Am I going to die too? And so, a lot of this stuff is, you have to look at the alternative, in my opinion, right? So what's the alternative? To eat McDonald's and to eat processed carbohydrates and huge amounts of sugar and Coke and Pepsi and birthday cakes and cookies? I mean, we know what we know what the outcome of that is, right? That's just it's the current life expectancy in Western nations. It's not good. So if that's our alternative, then we have no choice. So what I do is I try not to focus on that. Obviously, I read a book a long time ago called Sacred Contracts. If you go through our Amazon link, you can grab that. I'd appreciate that if you go through our link. We'll get a little credit for that, and that'll help support the show. But Sacred Contracts is a book by Carolyn Mace. I'm not sure how you say her last name, but she writes in there that before we come into this existence in this corporeal reality that we call planet Earth, that we drink from the river of forgetfulness, and we come in with a contract, and we make that contract with God, and that contract is something that's unknowable unless you do a lot of spiritual work. But the trick is to not know what that contract is and to seek out the deeper meanings of what that contract is in our life, to work on that in a spiritual way. And so perhaps, Dr. Marshall, from what I understand, was very, very sick many, many years ago, as was Ramil Nagel. And these people turned their lives around. So perhaps they would have died 20 years ago had they not done what they did. Perhaps they had a contract. Maybe their contract was to live for so long and to impart this information and then to move on into their next phase of their existence. Same with Andy Cutler. And I do know, too, that a lot of people that are in the alternative natural health space, a lot of people don't take care of themselves to the extent to which they propagate in their teachings. And I sort of know this from being, talking to a lot of people and making friends with, a lot of these people too. A lot of them are workaholics, and they don't put into practice a lot of the things they teach. So there's that too. So there's a lot of, don't lose hope. Here's the thing, what I do. I try not to focus on things like that. So what I do is I have a little tab. I use this thing on Google Chrome. It's an extension called Speed Dial. And on Speed Dial, you can create these little tabs, and you can aggregate tons of really important websites and group them together and things like that. So I have a group on Speed Dial called Anti-Aging or Longevity or something. And anytime I run across a story of like a 98-year-old yoga teacher, or, a guy that's competing as a bodybuilder at 77 years old, or, a guy that runs marathons at 102 years old, I store these all in one group so that I can refer to them often, because it's important to not disempower yourself and to really look at other people and say, you know what, I do have a choice. And I do have the ability, at least on a physical and spiritual and emotional level, to determine the outcome of how long I live and in what condition I live in. And so it's really important to focus on the direction that you want to go and to have people that are sort of your heroes, like Jack LaLanne would be one. What's his name, too, that died recently, passed away, the Juice Man, Jay Kordich. I think he was in his 90s, right? Diagnosed with some kind of cancer back, I think it was bladder cancer or colon cancer, I forget, back when he was like 22, and overcame all of that through juicing. And so it's really important to keep these people's stories close so that you can refer to them often, because you want to focus on where you're going and not the disempowering information of people that moved on to another existence. So that's kind of what I have to say about that. So let me talk a little bit about, I got some information about these doctors. So this is a website here that says, doctors mysteriously found dead after summit for breakthrough cure for cancer. Video. The medical community at large is aghast at several holistic doctors were found dead after apparently committing suicide over the past year. The fatalities have seemingly occurred after breakthrough cancer treatment was just announced. What's the new treatment? The newly developed cancer treatment involves the human protein GCMAF, or globulin component macrophage activating factor, GCMAF. Works by activating macrophages that are already present within the human body, and these macrophages can fight against and destroy cancer cells. So GCMAF is produced naturally inside the body. However, some people cannot make enough levels of this vital human protein to ward off disease and infection. And so this discovery was announced at this cancer treatment. And so it shows in this video here that the destroying of cancer cells. And so now, as a result, a lot of these people have been, the news says that they're just committing suicide. But, I mean, here, for example, it says, in one instance, Florida doctor Dr. Jeff Bradstreet, MD, who focused heavily on researching GCMF, was found dead in a river last year, despite the fact that Bradstreet had a gunshot wound to his chest. His sudden death was ruled a suicide right away. This, quote, suicide, which was later discovered to be a murder, is just one of about 7 mysterious deaths that happened in the same time period. All of them holistic doctors who were focused on the potential of GCMAF to treat and cure cancer. In the last year, 60 deaths have been reported in the holistic community as more natural, less conventional routes to medicine are explored therein. So it's, you know what? It's really challenging because do I think these people have been killed? I don't really focus on that. I don't know. All I know is that if I were someone who were part of the government and or the Illuminati or whatever these organizations that apparently exist, and these people are talking about a known cancer cure, then I wouldn't want them to propagate that and to get too big of a platform, right? Because it eats into my profits. So if I were them, I mean, of course, I would get rid of any and all competition, but I don't have that kind of mentality, or I'm not wired like that. That's just, to me, it's unreal that there are people out there that would want people dead just because their research is showing something that would eat into my company's profits. I mean, that's just insane. So I kind of lean more towards that. But to be honest, I don't really focus on it too much because it doesn't really matter. We're all here for a certain amount of time, and we're all trying to do the best we can. So there's another study here that I see that says there's a few different types of tattoo may cause cell mutation in cancer. Now, there may be a lot of people that disagree with this. I don't know. I don't have any tattoos. But it says here, the title of the article is, anyone who has gone under the gun to get the tattoo probably didn't consider the health implications. People are sometimes warned off getting a tattoo due to the social stipulations that still surround them. A tattoo can still stop you from getting a job in certain workplaces, but you may not know that getting a tattoo may actually make you ill. So this article talks about some research and some studies done by the University of Bradford using nanotechnology. And it's apparently, I don't know, it's showing that some of these tattoo ink particles have the potential to remodel the collagen in your skin. And the collagen is, typically found in the connective tissues and things like that of your body. And so that, the fact that these foreign matter, in the ink was found to be able to move freely around the body. And that's apparently what causes the change in the mutation of certain cells. And so they're doing research on that. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't have a tattoo. According to the study, it says here, we need to do more work, but there is no question that these substances can be toxic. It takes a long time for the multi-step nature of cancer to show its face, and I don't think we should wait to see if there's anything wrong with these ingredients, end quote. So they say that black ink was found to be the most problematic, apparently, due to the fact that it's more likely to become carcinogenic and linked to some sort of DNA alteration. I don't know. What are your thoughts about that? I just assume and just err on the side of caution with this kind of stuff. It's challenging. I don't have tattoos. Kate's going to get one, but she's done research for years. She's finally found a holistic place that uses, vegan chemical-free ink that has no heavy metals in it. That's completely non-toxic and organic. So, man, oh man. I mean, the way I look at it is, we're already exposed to so many toxins. Why add more? Unless you're doing something like what Kate is doing. If you want to, I don't know what the website is for that, but if you want to find out more about the place that she found, you can email her, Kate, Kate, at extremehealthradio.com and learn more about that. So I'll leave that up to you. But if I did have a tattoo, to me, it would just be an invitation to focus more and be more diligent about my cleansing and my routine that I used every day and stick to take care of myself. Because, people like Daniel Vitalis, he's got sleeves for tattoos. His whole arm's covered up. So if it were me and I had tattoos, I would just be more diligent about my self-care practice. I would make sure to do more detox baths. I would make sure to do more colonics or more coffee enemas once a week or once a day. These types of things. And it's more sauna therapy and rebounding and things like that. So green juices, all that kind of stuff. So I'm curious about what you guys think. Do you think tattoos are as damaging as this alleged study says? Again, it's just a study. We don't know exactly who funded that study. At least I don't. I'll link it up in the show notes in case you guys want to check it out at extremehealthradio.com/542. Then I read an article recently that was interesting. Will aspartame kill you? No, dumbass. Here's why. And so this guy, Adam, on, what does he say? Physiconomics? So he writes a whole article about how aspartame has been vilified and demonized in our culture, and there's nothing wrong with it. And he talks about, he talks in a very derogatory way, and I could tell a lot of these people, haven't done the research and haven't. I mean, he's citing studies here, but you know what I mean? Like, the way I look at it is, why not just use stevia? And my contention is that, the more we move away from nature in our life, our daily habits, living indoors, not getting outside, not getting sun, not breathing fresh air, not being grounded, not getting access to sunlight, exposing ourselves to blue light at night, being indoors and breathing, eating chemicalized foods and all of these things that we do every day, the more we live like that, the more we're going to get cancer. And the way I look at it is like, like, for example, a while ago, when I first learned of stevia, I used to buy those white stevia packets, but then I realized that, they're somehow doing that in a factory or something, right? Because stevia in nature is just a leaf. It's green. So I've moved on from getting those white packets of stevia because I don't know how that stuff's made, I don't want to put that stuff into my body. You can go online and get green leaf stevia, and that's what I've done. And so it's, liquid stevia drops made from organic green leaf stevia. So, I mean, people can do what they want. If they want to drink Diet Coke and drink all this sugar and, put aspartame in their coffee to sweeten it up, that's on them. And we did a whole show about aspartame. If you guys are interested, episode 142 with Dr. Debbie Martini. And she says that it's in over 6,000 different food products under, hundreds and hundreds of different names. They're always changing the names. And they're actually trying to make, according to the National Law Review, they're trying to make aspartame a Prop 65 carcinogen as of September 2016 here in the United States. So, I mean, why would they keep changing, the names of it? If it's so innocuous and it doesn't harm anyone, why have aspartame have, over 100 different names as different ingredients? You know what I mean? It's kind of shady, right? Wouldn't you think? I don't know. It's like I was exposed to some information recently that I don't know is true, so I'm going to say it here, but I still need to look it up. But it's one of those things that's kind of like big corporations do in order to get around and circumnavigate lawsuits and things just to protect their profits. And I was reading something recently where, you ever seen where McDonald's, it says like, we use 100% real beef? Well, they were surmising in the article that term, 100% real beef, is basically a patented, trademarked name of a product that is anything but 100% real beef. Now, I'm not saying that's true. This is just what, the information I was exposed to. This is what they were saying. I haven't looked into it, so I'm not indicting McDonald's here. But, this is the type of thing that companies and corporations will do to protect their profits, right? So, again, I'm not saying, that McDonald's is doing this. I have to look it up, and I have to do some more research on that. I haven't had time to since I was exposed to this information, but interesting idea. Now, if it's not McDonald's, it doesn't have to be McDonald's. It could be any corporation. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying this about McDonald's. I'm just saying that, wouldn't that be a great way around the law, right? Genius, right? Just patent or trademark that term, 100% real beef, and then say, hey, our hamburgers use 100% real beef. Well, it's like saying our hamburgers, use, I don't know, it's the name of a product. It's not describing what the product is. So again, going back to this aspartame issue, if people want to consume it, that's fine. I don't have any problem with people consuming aspartame. That's completely on them. But, why are they hiding it in all these different ingredients and calling it different names and things? So, I don't know. You can't get much further away from nature than aspartame and the way it's created in a chemical laboratory. So I'm not going to consume it. That's totally cool if other people do. And everyone has their own spiritual path. Everyone has their journey, and that's totally cool. We reap what we sow, as the Bible says. But so that's kind of that. I want to tell you guys too about this really cool book I'm reading. I'm rereading this. I read it years ago, but I wanted to tell you guys about this because I think you guys might like it. Because many of the people that listen to our show are seekers, like I am, trying to get to the bottom of truth and trying to discover new information and really interested in personal development and going after your dreams and living, being the fullest expression of who you're supposed to be here on planet Earth. And there's, it's not just about health, right? I mean, health is just one road to that. You can get into that through other means other than health. But this is a really cool book that I'm rereading, and it's really cool to reread books because it's like you miss so much and you forget so much. It's been, I think, 10 or 15 years since I read this. But it's a book you probably already read called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And the quote here is, to realize one's destiny is a person's only obligation. And so it says here that Paulo Coelho's enchanting novel has inspired a devoted following around the world. This story, dazzling in its simplicity and wisdom, is about an Andalusian shepherd boy named Santiago who travels from his homeland in Spain to the Egyptian desert in search of a treasure buried in the pyramids. Along the way, he meets a gypsy woman, a man who calls himself a king, and an alchemist, all whom point Santiago in the direction of his quest. No one knows what the treasure is, or if Santiago will be able to surmount the obstacles along the way. But what starts out as a journey to find worldly goods turns into a meditation on the treasures found within. Lush, evocative, and deeply humane, the story of Santiago is an eternal testament to the transforming power of our dreams and the importance of listening to our hearts. So this is an awesome book. Kate just read another one of his books called By the River Piedra, I Sat Down and Wept. She read that, and she says that's really good. This is a Brazilian author, lives in Rio de Janeiro. I highly recommend it. Let's see, I am on page, let me get to the page here. I'm only on page like 60. But it's a short book here. Let me take a look. It's only about 168 pages. So I recommend it. It's a really good book. Opens your mind up to living more out of your heart and listening to your heart and being in connection with your body, right? So anything that will allow you to do that is really, really, I think, something to look at, to spend some time at. Okay, I want to tell you guys about some of in case you missed our last couple shows, I want to do some recaps. But before that, I've got some listener questions here that I need to get to. Let me play this, and hopefully it turns out okay here. Here we go.
Hey, Justin and Kate. Yeah, I was wondering if you could try to get Carolyn Leaf on this show. She's a doctor of the brain.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Carolyn Leaf, we know about her, and awesome. Thanks for letting us know about that. Carolyn Leaf, I don't know too much about her. I've just heard of her work. Her website is Dr. DRLEAF, F as in Frank, like leaf of a tree, drleaf.com. And yeah, we'll reach out to her. So this will be really cool. Thanks. If you guys have any suggestions for guests, let me know. We're always looking for new and interesting people. We have a guest list a mile long. So, but yeah, let us know if you guys have any other, guest ideas for us. And here's one from Connie. Let me turn her down just a little bit so it doesn't get to be too loud, because I think her audio is a lot louder. Here we go.
Hi, Justin and Kate. It's Connie here. In Toronto, Canada, I would love to support you through your Amazon link. I purchase a ton of stuff on Amazon, but notice that you don't have a Canadian link. When Canadians go through the American link, we have to pay import taxes and duties and U.S. prices. So it ratchets up the price quite a bit, and we don't get free delivery. So if you would like to get all of us Canadians clicking on your Amazon link, could you create a Canadian one? Amazon.ca. Thanks.
Sweet. Awesome. All right. Thanks, Connie. Yeah, we have a lot of people in Canada that listen to the show and have said the same thing over the years. And so recently, Amazon's made some changes to where we can do this. So if you live in Canada, please let me know if you click on our Amazon link and it takes you to Amazon.ca, I think it is. So let me know about that, because there's some code that you have to add to your website and stuff like that, which I have done, but since I'm not in Canada, I can't really test it out. So it now works for Canada and the United Kingdom. I think Australia is coming next. So thank you, Connie. I really appreciate that. That's really cool. Man, we have the best listeners that just want to support us. You guys are so cool. Okay, Jesse writes, or let's see, Jesse, here's another email from her, or not email, but voicemail. Oh, by the way, guys, if you guys want to be on the show and leave us a voicemail message, just go to our website on the right-hand side right now. It may not always be there, but right now there's a link for you guys to record a question. So if you have a question, please just go to our website and you can click and record one right off your computer. So here's Jesse's.
Hey there, Justin and Kate. Hi, this is Jessie from Petaluma. I'm an avid listener to your shows and really enjoy them and have turned a lot of people onto them. Sweet. Also, thanks for explaining about the Amazon purchases from your site. I do a lot of Amazon purchasing, and I'm happy to go through your site to do it, to support y'all. My first comment is about Kate's yummy green smoothie. It sounds so good. I love it. There's just one thing that you might want to consider, and that is you might want to hold off on adding clay in with your superfood nutrition shake. And this is according to Dr. Richard Anderson of Arise and Shine, and also Dr. James Sheridan of Health Force. As Dr. Sheridan says, the clay, it sucks big time, which is why you wait 90 minutes after you eat in order to ingest clay, because it pulls not.
Okay, so her message there got cut off. So yeah, I'm not sure what green smoothie she's talking about, but we don't do that much anymore. We take the clay, at least I do, on an empty stomach in the morning. That way, and I leave a long time until I eat. So that's one of the reasons why I do intermittent fasting, so I can allow the clay to work. So pretty cool stuff. So here's the second part of Jesse's message.
Hey, Justin and Kate. Hi, this is Jessie. Again, message 2. So in terms of future show, would love to have somebody on talking specifically about food-grade hydrogen peroxide. Loved Ed McCabe's show on ozone and oxyflush, but that's expensive. Maybe somebody who's continued the work of Dr. Charles Farr or Dr. William Campbell Douglas, or Nathaniel Altman or Walter Groats, somebody who knows about different ways of taking food-grade hydrogen peroxide, like nebulizing it, inhaling it, intravenous, etc., would be great. And anybody that knows the interaction with MMS with hydrogen peroxide would also be wonderful. And then just as a last suggestion, the editor, Ken Adachi of educateyourself.org, might be a really interesting interview, since he compiles so much information on alternative therapies and stuff. Okay, keep on doing your good work. Thanks. Bye.
Jesse, you rock. Thank you for that. Yes, we will look into all those people. And it's really important. Oxygenation is really, really... Oh, gosh. We did that whole show, like she mentioned, with Ed McCabe. And the power of it is just so... man, if people understood what power they have with different types of protocols and things, it's amazing. But with oxygenation, especially things like ozone and oxygen, and ozone and oxygen are a little different, but oxidative therapies like MMS and things like that have to be done very carefully. So we will look into those guests, because you know what, part of all this stuff too is like, you know, for some people, oxygenation might be something that's very, you know, attractive to them, and you know, maybe only for certain people, certain times in their life if they get sick. It's just good to have that as a ability to be able to fall back on it in case you ever need it, right? So the first step is actually knowing that it exists, and then the second step is sort of understanding how to do it and having some experiential knowledge of how to implement that into your life. So yeah, we'll have some of those guests on the show. I've heard of most of them, not all of them, but most of them. So yeah, we'll completely do that for you, and I'll write their names down and we will contact them. I want to tell you guys too, if you guys are not familiar with our newsletter, a couple things I want to let you guys know. Right now, we're not allowed to advertise this on the website, or actually, I'm sorry, the price on the website. But right now, there is a summer sauna sale going on. So if you guys have been wanting the sauna sale, or wanting the sauna, this is a really good time to pick one up. And the price is there's a significant discount going on right now. And we're sort of under wraps with the company that we work with. So at any time they could tell us to end it, and we have to end it. And so I just want to let you guys know that. So I'm not sure how long it'll last for, but I wanted to let you guys know that it's on sale right now. So as of this recording, let me get the date for you here. What's the date today? August 12th, 2017. As of this recording, it's still on sale. So it might be pulled at any time. So that's one of the benefits of being on our newsletter list. That way you can get access to, different sales, different things like that goes on. So I also wanted to let you guys know, too, I don't know if you guys are familiar about what health summits are. Health summits are really cool. I really, really love promoting them. And one of the things that I love about them is that they dive really, really deep with multiple experts in one particular subject matter. So a couple of the recent ones that just finished were the Chronic Headache and Migraine Summit. So that was really fascinating. And then the Immune Defense one as well, on a ton of different ways that you probably have never heard of to boost your immune system. A healthy immune system is gold. A healthy immune system, if your immune system is healthy, then it really doesn't matter what toxicities you're exposed to, because your body's humming, your body's working perfectly. That's the name of the game, is a healthy immune system. So that was an interesting summit that just ended. But upcoming summits, there's a really interesting one, Interpreting Your Genetics Summit. And I'd recommend looking into that one, because that's going to be offering some interesting information about how your genes really do affect your biology. And it's going to be talking about epigenetics and how you can use the idea of epigenetics to override your genes. And it's going to get into mitochondrial health. Pretty fascinating stuff. So if you guys are interested in that, and there's also another one coming up about parasites. So that one I'd really want to be involved with. I want to listen to that one. We have 2 pups, and they always say if you own any animals, most likely you have parasites. So, we've done multiple shows on parasites. So the other things I want to let you guys know about, too, is the truth about vaccines is coming up on August 17th, 2017. That's going to be the first day that it launches. And if you guys have not, I would highly recommend watching that or buying that. It's available for free, I think, for 24 hours each day. And then at the end, if you've missed any days, or, you can buy it at the end in case you miss any of the days. But man, I would highly recommend that, because, there's so much debate about vaccines, and this is getting to be a really, really big issue in today's culture, man. Vaccines. People are really upset about it, whether they're for it or against it. And this is going to be a really good they call it a docu-series. That's what Ty calls it, our friend. He calls it a docu-series. So you're not going to want to miss that one. It's really important to arm yourself with information, so that if you ever have to get into a conversation with people that disagree with you. And one sort of tidbit of advice that I learned from some people over about law is, when you're involved or engaged in a conversation with people, the best thing to do to really engage them and to make them think, instead of forcing them to listen to your ideas, but you want to get them to think. And you want to put that little crack in their armor. And you want them to think about your questions when they're going to bed at night, instead of clinging further to their position. So I'd highly recommend this when you're talking with people who are very, either anti-natural health or pro-vaccines, or whatever the case is that's opposite of yours. Lovingly and being very polite and copacetic, and just engaging them very nicely, is just by not taking a position and just asking questions. So that's the person that answers the questions is really a subject, and the person asking the questions is like a king. So the king is the one that asks the subjects the questions about what they've been doing with their time and what they've been doing for the king, and whether or not they've done all the things that they promised the king they would do. So it's like, as king. So asking is just as king, right? So a king asks questions. So by not taking a position, you can ask questions in a way that will get the other person to think. And so that's something I learned from the folks over at Creditors in Commerce. So asking a question, not taking a position, but asking questions to get to the answer together. So when it comes to vaccines or any other issue, it's a very important way to understand dialogue and connecting with people. The other thing, too, that's coming up very, very soon is Chris Wark's Square One Cancer Program. Chris Wark, if you're not familiar with him, he's launched his Square One Cancer Program aimed at helping people who have recently been diagnosed with cancer. Now, Chris is a guy who's been on our show a couple times. Really cool guy. He's got a website called crispycancer.com, and he had a colon cancer back in the day, like around 2002, 2003. Just a young guy eating horrible foods and living a very toxic lifestyle, diagnosed with colon cancer, didn't know any better, got the surgery. They removed it. I think they removed all of it, or there was still some there that they couldn't remove. Took out a part of his intestine. Maybe it was his colon. I'm not sure. And then very quickly and rapidly told him that, hey, unless you get chemotherapy and radiation, and as soon as you recover from surgery, we have you scheduled for, I think 3 or 4 rounds of chemotherapy and radiation at the same time. Unless you do that, your chance of survival is next to nothing. And so he had a series of events, serendipitous events that happened to him. Very strange. Like here's an example. He was not, he didn't want to do chemotherapy, but he was afraid. And he was listening to his family members, and all of his family was telling him, you got to do chemo, you got to do chemo. But in his heart and his deepest part of himself said, it just doesn't sound right, And so he prayed that God would show him which direction to go. Should I get chemo? Should I not? And I think 3 days later, a book shows up on his doorstep, because his family at that point knew. They were all telling him to get chemo, as well as his doctors. And so somehow word spread to some member of his family or a family friend or somewhere in Alaska that sent him a book. I think it was called like Healing God's Way or something. And it was all about healing from colon cancer. And this guy healed from the same exact cancer Chris had in the 1970s using, basically a raw vegan approach with cleansing and supplementation and all kinds of stuff. So just a bizarre set of circumstances, right? So he's at crispycancer.com. And so needless to say, nonetheless, he didn't have chemotherapy. He didn't have radiation because of that. And check this out, too. Tell me, this is so weird. Things like this happen, right? When you're in touch and in tune with your purpose in life, these types of events happen. So he decides, at the behest of his family, I'll go in and see what the doctors have to say about chemotherapy and radiation, right? So he goes into the doctor, and as he's sitting in the waiting room, and you know how they have those TVs in doctors' offices? Well, guess who comes on the TV? Jack LaLanne. Jack LaLanne, of all people, comes on and starts talking. You know how he did those old fitness shows, and before the show he talked for 5 or 10 minutes about the state of health and the people in nutrition, disease prevention, and he goes on to say in that little spiel all about preventing disease and our modern diseases. And this was like in the 1950s he was recording this on that TV show, and so Chris is just watching this in the doctor's office, about ready to go see the doctor who he knows is gonna try to convince him of taking chemotherapy. So it's just interesting, right? So when you're living in such a way where you're connected to God and you're seeking answers and you're walking humbly and walking in a way that's trying to find truth and knowledge, these things happen. And the more times it happens in your life, the more you know that you're on the right path. And so anyway, Chris is launching his Square One coaching program that happens, let's see, it starts, I think, September 12th, 2017. So we'll put a link to that too. He's been on our show a couple times. If you're not familiar with him, you can go to chrisbeatcancer.com or listen to the shows that we've had. But let's see. Last couple shows, we had Dr. Cass Ingram on episode 540, and that was a pretty cool show. We talked about turmeric and the power of oregano oil to improve your health, and he talked about the problems with many of the different turmerics and oregano oils out there and why they're not effective, and what it takes, the amount that you have to have in terms of turmeric and oregano oil. And this is a really eye-opening episode for me. And so since then, we now have his oregano oil product. I haven't tried that one yet. I'm taking his turmeric. Whew, man, that stuff is... You're supposed to take 20 drops under the tongue. That stuff is powerful. So if you want to check it out, that was episode 540. So if you go to extremehealthradio.com/540, you can listen to that show, and I think there's a link to that turmeric powder. Or not, it's a powder, it's like a tincture. Super powerful stuff. I mean, I've taken turmeric before, but this stuff is just on a different level. And then in episode 541, we had Bryant Myers, who I was talking about recently or earlier on the show, about debunking the myths behind low-intensity PEMF therapy and how PEMF can improve your health. So that was a really cool show. That was episode 541, if you want to listen to that one and learn all about magnetic therapy and what magnets do and all of that. So what else do I have to get to today? I've got a lot of stuff. Told you about the book, The Alchemist. I told you about Aubrey Marcus's podcast. I've been listening to that lately. Listening to a recent episode he did all about with his father-in-law about his experience doing ayahuasca. Their trip down to the jungle down in Peru. So that was an interesting and fascinating episode. Let's see, what other stuff do I have? I know I got a ton of stuff to share with you. Well, while I think about that, I'll read an email from Dimitri. He's a cool guy. He says, "Hi, Justin. It's Dimitri from Cyprus. We just got the Rapid Release Pro 2 massage tool. By the way, this Rapid Release Pro 2 is in our store if you guys are interested. And happy with it. My wife is using it 2 times a day, and I do it as well and try to learn more information from it on YouTube. Maybe I wrote to you already that in Moscow I taught yoga to a lot of martial arts guys, world champions of Kyokushin, karate, kickboxing world champion, and one of them was the first owner Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt gotten personally from Marcelo Garcia, named Leonid Gatovsky. I'm not sure his name, Russian. So he runs a workshop in my neighbor city and visited my house and brought his Russian students for my yoga class. Now he runs local Russian martial arts coaches, and permanent base for them is there in Cyprus, where he talks about, gives lectures to these guys on health, inspiration, breathing exercises. So he says, don't be surprised if you get an order from Cyprus for the sauna. Is one of the best of all health devices I have purchased. Justin, what about your Academia of Health? Will my English be good enough for it? If so, how much would I have to pay, and what yet should I do for participating in this enterprise? Sincerely yours, Dimitri. That's awesome. Yeah, Dimitri, we haven't got an email yet for Cyprus. I think the only one that we got was yours for the sauna quite some time ago. And I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm going to get in my sauna right after I'm done recording this. So yeah, thank you, Dimitri. You're awesome for referring someone to our show. Black belt. Yeah, Marcelo Garcia. He's an awesome jiu-jitsu black belt. Many people say he is the #1 jiu-jitsu practitioner in the world. He's an amazing guy, Marcelo Garcia, man. He is so good. If you haven't tried jiu-jitsu, I would highly recommend it. I would love to get back on the mat. I have a back injury right now, and many of you guys know about what I did to my back that I'm constantly working on. And right now it's using the IMRS and inversion, using the Rapid Release Pro 2 and stuff like that. My back is basically back to normal, but I'm just, I guess it's like a psychological injury too, because I'm just worried that I might re-injure it. And there's so many stories of being injured, people doing jiu-jitsu, but I love jiu-jitsu. Such a great sport. But what about your Academia of Health? Awesome, Dimitri. Yes, we are launching, by the way, if you guys are not familiar, the Extreme Health Academy. And that's going to be launching here pretty soon. I was thinking originally it was going to be September of 2017. It looks like now it might be October, because there's a lot of extra unforeseen things that we have to do to launch this membership site. So the membership site, if you guys are unfamiliar, is going to be a place where we're all going to be able to come together as a community. And it's not going to be for everyone. I don't want everyone in here. I only want those of you that there's two classifications of people that I want. First of all, those of you that do join, I'm really excited about meeting you in the community, because that's one of the things I don't get to do. We have so many emails that come in. I just cannot reply to everyone. But man, if I met all of you, it would be so much fun to hang out like in person, but I can't. It's just too much. So I'm looking forward to meeting you guys in the community. But those of you who have debilitating or chronic disease, this is going to be the place for you. This is going to be the #1 alternative and natural health community in the world. I'm telling you, this is going to be an amazing place. So what we're going to be doing is eventually doing things in person, and doing lectures and seminars and maybe even cruises or group cleanses, some really cool things in person. But before we get to that stage, it's going to be a place where we're going to be able to get access to high-level courses from a lot of the different people and guests that we've had on the show. And we're working behind the scenes now with someone that we're bringing in that we're going to be partnering with. I'm super, super excited. This guy is one of our most popular guests, and if you know who he is, you can guess, but I'm not at liberty right now to say, but I'll just tease that. But I'm really excited to have him as part of it, and we're going to be featuring mostly his content. I'm really excited. So we're going to be doing courses on all the different organ systems of the body, right? So eventually we're going to cover every single organ and every single system of the body. So we'll cover the liver, the brain, the gallbladder, the thyroid, the colon, every organ that's in the body. We're going to cover that and what to do, practical information. And when we run across new information, we'll add it to it. So it's going to be the one-stop shop for you guys to really get to the nuts and bolts about how to take care of all of the organs and systems of the body. Then we're also going to be doing courses every single month on different disease processes or health challenges, like, say, for example, like digestion or improving your sleep or having more energy, these types of things. So we're going to be covering all of that as well. So there's an unlimited number of disease processes that we're going to be able to cover, and there is a limited number of organs and systems of the body. So once we get all that covered, we're going to be doing so much cool information, possibly doing group cleanses as a group. We're going to have monthly Q&A calls so that you guys can be live on those and get your questions answered by a doctor, and all of those will be available for replay, alphabetized, categorized, so there you can find all the information easily. At this point, it looks like we're going to have a forum in there so we can all connect to each other, and it's just going to be an amazing place. So if you want to take your health to new levels, this is going to be the place for you. I'm telling you, this is going to be an awesome place. So anyway, Dimitri, that is going to be launching very soon. If you're on our newsletter list, I will let you know about that. And what I would suggest is signing up to the newsletter list that we have. That's a waiting list. So when we open our doors, you'll get access to the best price. You'll be grandfathered in. The price will never go up. It will never be as cheap it is when we first open the door. So I would highly recommend getting on that waiting list just so that you can get access to the price. That way you can be, learn all about it and all that kind of stuff. So, okay, let's see. Okay, we have an email here from Charles. He says, "Hello, Justin. I listened to your show and find it very encouraging. Last week, my wife was diagnosed with cervical cancer. We do not know the stage of it, but my wife and I believe that I gave it to her by getting or by her getting HPV from me. Our world has literally flipped upside down because we have 7 children who depend on us. Oh my gosh. Man, this cancer thing, I tell you. Cancer it's the plague of our time, isn't it? It's obviously here to teach us. Man, we get emails like this and it just is so, My wife, Sarah, is going the natural way of curing herself of cervical cancer, HPV, and herpes. My only concern is there are no tests or screening for men who are carriers of HPV. She also is losing weight because she is mostly doing all greens and juicing. We both started doing high dose of vitamin C back in May of this year, so that would be 2017. She has seen her lymph nodes sweeping go down in her armpit. She is now making homemade liposomal vitamin C, but our recipe calls for grain alcohol. My question is, because I heard you and your wife make it at home, is alcohol a must? Can she still eat some meat because she is now 113 pounds and she is about 5'4"? She used to weigh 118. She also feels lost because she has no one to help guide her through this tough time and what to do. She is the centerpiece to this family, and I would be lost if I were to lose her. Ah, man. Can you please share the knowledge or lead us in the right direction? Smiley face. Thank you for your time, Charles. Charles, man. Man, I feel for you, my friend. You know what I would do? Okay, so first of all, let me just go to the questions that I can answer here. And obviously, I'm not a medical doctor, so I can't give medical advice here. But I can answer your question about liposomal vitamin C, and you don't need an alcohol for that. We have what do they call those things? The name is escaping me. It's like a jewelry cleaner. You can get them off Amazon. If you go through our Amazon link, you can find them on there. And it's like a jewelry cleaner. And basically, you just buy, I think the best thing to do, although it's expensive, is to use a food-based, plant-based berry vitamin C, like a camu berry powder. That would be optimal because that has more bioavailable vitamin C. But basically, you can use ascorbic acid, which is what we do from time to time when we don't have the other more expensive vitamin C. But you buy organic soy lecithin, I think. And you can buy both these things at your health food store in powder form. And what you do is you just mix both of these powders together and in your blender, and then pour that final liquid concoction into this machine. And you basically just stand there and stir it, and I think it goes in 8-minute rounds, and you just do it 3 times. So you stand there for about 24 minutes, and I always just watch a documentary or listen to a podcast while I do it, or if Kate's home, I'll hang out with her. And then you make this liposomal vitamin C at home, and that's the cheapest way to do it. I'll try to find a link and put it in the show notes at extremehealthradio.com/542. There's one guy on YouTube that I learn most of this. I follow his protocol. And we've done some Instagram videos about that back in the day. Oh, Charles. You know what I would do if I were you is I would look, if she's convinced to go natural, there's always a spiritual, emotional component to any kind of disease that we have. And, we're all human, and we all, at different times of our life, have to deal with stuff. And these are just invitations from God to really look deeper into the way our life is going, the course of our life, the direction that we're going. So for some people, cancer is the best thing that ever happened to them, and they call it their blessing. So I would go through our archives and listen to some of the shows we've done on cancer. There's all kinds of ways to I wouldn't say attack, because cancer is not something that we should kill or destroy. It's part of a healing phase of our body. So if you listen to the shows that we did with Dr. Richard Massey or, Michelle Schrader. And what is his name? Who wrote? Oh, Gilbert Renaud. If you go to Google and just type Extreme Health Radio excluded.com and then do a space, Gilbert Renaud, Renaud, or do the same for Richard Massey or Michelle Schrader. And you can listen to the shows that we've done about recall healing, and there's some really interesting work that you can do on a spiritual, emotional level with cancer and including it and working that level, because there's different levels with cancer, right? There's the spiritual level, there's the emotional level, there's the physical level. So you want to be working in all three of these different levels. Another thing you might want to consider is going to extremehealthradio.com/126, and you can listen to some of the things that we did there. And I laid out a bunch of different protocols and different healing centers and books and websites and references and protocols and products and all kinds of stuff like that there. So anytime I find something new about cancer, I always put it on extremehealthradio.com/126. So that was a little podcast I did about that. And I'm always adding to that too. So, oh man, you have 7 children. That's a challenge. That is a challenge. This is the biggest challenge of your life for both you and your wife, Charles. So let me know. Keep us up to date what's going on with you, Charles, if you can, if you're listening to this. And allow this to be your biggest and best teacher. As hard as that sounds, man. But with that said, I really think that there's amazing hope that we all have. So one of the things you might want to do is consider a ketogenic diet. That is a diet that is basically very low in protein but high in fat, and very, 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 very low in carbohydrates and sugars. We recently did a show with a lady who has brain cancer and is using the ketogenic diet as a way to mitigate the cancer coming back. And so there's all kinds of really interesting and unique items that you can use. Vitamin B17 is one. Halin, if you guys are not familiar with Halin 951. Oh gosh, there's all kinds of stuff. I list most of those at extremehealthradio.com/126. So you want to use all of these in your favor if you can. So Charles, let us know about what goes on with your wife, can you? Please, if you're listening to this, I'd love to hear from you. And I look forward to the success that your wife is going to have. I really do. And, my heart goes out to anyone who's been diagnosed with cancer because, as you guys know, cancer is one of the reasons why I got into this whole thing. And my mom was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, given less than a 10% chance of survival back in 1995. And it's the reason why I got involved with all of this. So it really hits home to me. And so I have just a place in my heart for anyone who's been dealing with cancer, which is why I always talk about the Truth About Cancer Summit when it comes up, or different events like Chris Wark's Square One Cancer Program, stuff like that. So I want to tell you guys about a couple different things closing the show, and that is how to make an Indian black salve that kills moles, skin tags, and skin cancer. Now, for skin cancer, a lot of people use BEC5, I think it's called BEC5. If you look into the work of Dr. Jonathan Wright, look him up on Google, Jonathan Wright. I think what's his website? Tahoma Clinic? I think tahomaclinic.com. Anyway, he talks about BEC5, and it's a extract of the skin and the compounds, I think, in the skin of eggplant. But this black salve, here's some ingredients that people have used black salve. So this is some sort of Indian black salve root that you can use if you know anyone that has skin cancer. I have a little wart on my skin. I wonder if it'll work on that. I have a salve that I use, and it's really knocked down the wart. on my forearm quite significantly. The last time I used it, it got rid of the wart altogether, but this one's still hanging on. I know the rice machine that I have has a wart protocol in there, a wart frequency setting, so I might try that and see what that does. But the recipe for this Indian black salve is pau d'arco, burdock root, yarrow, yellow dock, prickly ash bark, calendula flowers, bloodroot, sarsaparilla, 10% bentonite clay, activated charcoal, and 2% DMSO. So they have in this how to prepare. So all these products you can probably get, I would imagine, at either your local health food store, Thrive Market, or Mountain Rose Herbs. I'll put a link to Thrive Market and Mountain Rose Herbs on this show page too. But they give you the directions for how to prepare this stuff. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So if you know anyone that's dealing with like a high-grade skin cancer or anything like that, you may want to refer them to this. It comes from bearnaturalhealth.com. So that's pretty, something to think about. So I'll put a link to that in extremehealthradio.com/542. Something cool, right? So another article that I want to share with you is from our friends Ty Bollinger, friend of our show, at The Truth About Cancer. And he's talking about Wi-Fi radiation. And he says here that besides cancer and genotoxicity, exposure to Wi-Fi radiation induces memory loss, diabetes, depression, insomnia, fatigue, and so on. And he says studies associate Wi-Fi radiation exposure to symptoms like fatigue, irritability, headaches, digestive disorders. So long-term exposure to Wi-Fi radiation also has been linked to memory loss, diabetes, depression, insomnia, and cancer. And so here's 5 steps to minimize Wi-Fi radiation. Avoid using Wi-Fi wire while you're in a vehicle. Because the frequencies end up being bounced around inside the the car, right? The car is an a metal vehicle, and it increases your exposure. And I'm not sure if you guys know this, but if you have your Wi-Fi on, like say on your phone, or if your phone just automatically comes with that, anytime you're traveling and you have your phone like on your lap or something, it's reconnecting using GPS every, I don't know how many feet or meters, but every 100 feet or something. So it's got to recalibrate because it's got to know where you are. So, if you use those apps that, give you directions and things like that, it's every 20 seconds, it's recalibrating. So it's sending out signals as that's happening. So, and then point number 2, he says, turn off your Wi-Fi when you're not using the internet, and especially when you go to sleep at night. Your body goes into repair mode during sleep, and radio frequencies interfere at this time, slows down your body's healing process. So that's what we do. We turn our Wi-Fi off anytime we're not using it. Anytime we're not using it, I'll turn it on for Kate. She'll use it, and then we'll turn it off. And then we turn it off at night as well. So something to consider. Also something to consider too for sleep are the scalar energy rest shields that we have in our store. Those are like those, have you ever seen those things? Ken Rolla is a prolific guy out of Florida. He's been on the show multiple times. He has these things called the scalar energy rest shield, and we have one, and we love using it. We put it right next to our bed. You plug it in, and it mitigates, according to Ken and the research and studies he's done, electromagnetic field radiation using scalar technology. So that's pretty interesting. So you can look at those in our store if you guys want. It's those pyramids. You can see them in our store. Point number 3 says choose to use a hardwired Ethernet connection to your home instead of a wireless. So that's even better. I think perhaps we're going to start doing that here pretty soon too, so we don't even have to use wireless. If you do decide to keep your wireless modem or router situated as far as possible from your bedroom and as far as possible from rooms where you spend a lot of time, or if you have a child or a baby doing a baby monitor, these types of things, man. Whew. If you go to lessemf.com, they're in our store as well. They have these really cool things that you can put over your wireless router that mitigates all of the radiation coming from them. So we have like that tri-field meter I was telling you about earlier. I got ours from Less EMF, and Less EMF has, if you guys just want, all kinds of products to help mitigate all of the radiation and exposures from radiation coming off of all of our electrical devices, Less EMF is the place to go for that stuff. So I'll put a link to that in our store. I think it's in our store, but I'll put a link at extremehealthradio.com/542. And number 5, and finally, be mindful of Wi-Fi radiation exposure from neighbors. After first measuring these exposures with a radio frequency meter, you can install shielding materials to block out Wi-Fi signals. So, Less EMF sells the paint, the black paint that you can paint on the inside of your walls. It essentially creates almost like a Faraday cage. So you, I think, do 2 or 3 coats of this black paint, and then you let it dry, and then you paint over it with obviously organic paint, so that no one ever knows that the black paint is there, and it looks like whatever color you want it to look like. But they have all kinds of different products there at Less EMF to mitigate all of this stuff. So some good ideas from Ty over at Truth About Cancer. I'll put a link to that article if you guys are interested in that. I don't have a cell phone, so it's my contention that this EMF is affecting our mitochondria. And the show that we did with Dr. Jack Cruz, he talks about mitochondrial health as being something that's way more important than genetic health. So it's the mitochondria that determines through lifestyle and how we live what sort of genetic expression happens. So it's my contention that this frequency, these Wi-Fi frequencies affect our mitochondria. That's my contention, as well as blue light as well at night is really dangerous. But in the article it says here, it affects some of the adverse biological effects are DNA chain breaks, increased blood-brain barrier permeability, and we know this is true with children using cell phones, putting these phones up to their ear before they're fully developed. Disruption to brain glucose metabolism. So this is a real issue with Alzheimer's and dementia, these types of things, even brain cancers. Creation of stress proteins and the disruption of cell metabolism. So, if you have a cell phone, I would highly recommend, buying as many types of products and things that you can do to mitigate. Kate has a cell phone, but she uses one of those pop phones, and she plugs an actual phone into it and puts the phone like way far away from her when she talks. So there's all kinds of little hacks. So the beauty about living in 2017 is, yes, there are many things that can cause disease, and the way we live our life is going to be a huge determining factor to what kind of mitochondrial health we have, and because of that, genetic expression emanates from that. So obviously, lifestyle factors are a huge cause of the type of life that we have. So we have many things that are dangerous for us, but we also have the answers. We have so many answers, more answers today. We have more research, and more stuff is going on in the natural health community in terms of studies and research and published papers and all kinds of stuff showing that we can mitigate a lot of these effects, and we can start living closer to nature. And that's really where it all boils down to. It all boils down to getting closer to nature. And so that's one of the things that I've been doing a lot lately, is spending more time outside. I mean, if you look, I've never looked at this, but it's my feeling that if you were to look at any adult in the Western world and you do a bar graph of that and correlate the amount of time that they spend outside from the time that they're a little child to the time that they die in their 80s, 90s, or whatever. And obviously, the time that they spend inside is going to go up and up and up, and the time they spend outside is going to go down and down and down. And if you correlate that with the disease process, any number of diseases, I think there's going to be a direct correlation between the two, because we're not meant to be inside. We're not meant to be breathing this air that we breathe. We're not meant to be living the types of lives. Everything we do, if you think about it, everything we do, almost everything we do causes disease in some capacity. Whether you're under fluorescent lights, you're working a midnight graveyard shift, you're driving in cars, you're wearing clothing that's been dyed with, colorings that have been chemicalized and exposed to chemicals. It's just everything we do can cause disease. And I think that's why our DNA is breaking down. And so being outside is one of the best things we can do. Just simply being outside. Spend more time outside. Figure out ways to get outside more, whether that's going for longer walks or going for walks at all, or instead of going to the gym, do your workouts in the backyard, which is what I started doing. Walking your dogs more, even if it's just to go outside, even if you work at home, consider taking your laptop out in the backyard and working outside for a couple hours a day. Just doing more, spending more time outside. It's going to be the number one best thing you could ever do for your health. So I think we covered a lot of stuff in today's episode, didn't we? Gosh, covered everything from Michael Tellinger, the sound frequency, covered intermittent fasting. I asked you guys about health debates. I talked about the doctors dying, my experience with the IMRS PEMF mat that we have in our store. Told you about the book, The Alchemist. Told you about our friend Aubrey Marcus's podcast. Love what he's doing. Talked about those BRCA things they've done with cancer and all these holistic doctors that are mysteriously found dead. I talked about tattoo ink, aspartame, how to make the black salve that kills moles and allegedly skin cancer. I can't say that. I can't make claims. Talked about Wi-Fi. Gave you some show recaps of Dr. Cass Ingram, episode 540 of the benefits of turmeric and oregano oil, and episode 541 with Bryant Myers about debunking the myths behind low-intensity PEMF therapy. And I took some listener questions. Let's see here. About a lot of those holistic doctors that have been dying. And Charles's question about her or his wife with cancer, or whose body has cancer. She doesn't have cancer. Nobody has cancer. Just people's bodies have cancer, just for a little while, until we give it a better offer than chemotherapy. And episode 126 I did, where I shared all kinds of information about all the latest research I've done on cancer. And yeah, lots of cool stuff, huh? So much cool stuff. I tell you what, I love doing these types of shows because there's so much that I'm exposed to on a daily basis. I'm always learning, always listening, always reading, always doing research. So it's fun to get to share this stuff with you. So I want to tell you guys just a couple of cool things that are going on. Let's see, of some upcoming shows that we have. Where are we at now? August 12th, 2017. On Monday, we have Dr. Jack Wolfson. He's the paleocardiologist. So that'll be an interesting show. Because for the longest time, I don't know about you, but we've learned that, eating meat causes heart attack. And eating cholesterol causes heart attack. So we'll talk to him about that. He's been harassed by the powers that be. So anyone who's been harassed like that, I figure they're on to doing some good work in the world. So we appreciate them being on our show. We'll be talking with Adam Bergstrom very soon he's always a fascinating guest, Adam Bergstrom. He is so interesting. He might be one of the more interesting people we've ever had on our show. He's been on multiple times too. But this one is going to be talking about body dowsing and cognitive shocks. I have no idea what that is. Cognitive shocks. And then we're going to be having Dr. Natasha Winters, and she wrote a book recently called The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. And we had a guest on, I was telling you before recently, if you're looking through our archives, the date of this recording is August 12th, 2017. And on our website, you can go and check out our archives by date. And just a few weeks ago, we had, I forget what her name was, but she had brain cancer. And she's been working with Dr. Natasha Winters, using the ketogenic diet and specific blood testing to starve out the cancer cells and to mitigate the cancer cells and all that kind of stuff. So she constantly referenced Dr. Natasha Winters. So we'll talk to her about her book, The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. That's coming up soon as well. Oh, and then we have a really interesting guest, Rhea Carlson. We'll be talking with her about bee venom therapy And if you guys have not heard about bee venom therapy, they do what they call the crown of thorns. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but what they'll do with people with traumatic brain injuries or concussions or brain issues is they'll do specific protocols with supplementation, but they'll also do bee venom stings at the site of where the concussion is. So that will stimulate an immune response of the body to help heal the concussion, this internal invisible bruise basically on the inside of our brain. But she'll be talking about royal jelly, beeswax, bee venom, honey, propolis, and all the healing substances that bees produce, and bee venom therapy specifically. So that's going to be super interesting. Then we're going to be talking with Dr. Joan Vernikos. We're going to be talking about how sitting kills and moving heals. So that's going to be an interesting show with her. And I don't know if you guys know, but sometime around the 2nd or 3rd of January of 2017, I just made a personal declaration to myself that I'm just done sitting. I'm done sitting. So every now and then I'll sit. I'll basically sit as a reward. So if I eat something, I'll sit down. It'll be really nice to sit down because I'll give my feet a break. But I've got a stand-up desk, and I stand now. I do all my shows standing. I don't sit anymore. And so I think it's made a huge improvement in my health. So anyway, we've gone on for, an hour and 41 minutes. So anyway, thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for all your support. Make sure to check out the Academy that's going to be launching here very soon. I'll put a link to that at extremehealthradio.com/542. Check out our store if you guys want to check out the IMRS mat. We're always adding new products to our store, and that's how we remain sustainable. That's how we pay all of our bills, and that's how we keep the wolves at bay here. So we feed all of our dogs and ourselves. We buy basically just all we do is spend money on food and our bills. So that's what we do, and so thank you for your support. Those of you who are supporting us, and you know who you are on Patreon and Amazon, thank you guys. You guys are really awesome. Thank you. You guys are just amazing. So thank you guys for that. And and thank you guys also for going through and bookmarking our Amazon link and going and using that bookmark every time you make an Amazon purchase. That supports the show. But thank you guys also for just sharing our shows on social media, leaving us a review and a rating on iTunes. All these things help us so much. So we have the best listeners. Man, you guys are just awesome. So supportive. And gosh, I wish we'd all just hang out in person and talk. But that's kind of what the Academy is going to be. So we're going to be doing that in the Academy and hanging out and making friends in there. So make sure to check that out. Okay, so I will try to put all of the links that we talked about at extremehealthradio.com/542 for this particular show. So if you want to check out any of the sponsors or any of the links that we talked about on 542, we will, the documentaries and all that kind of good stuff, we'll do that for you. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for everything. We love you guys. And you guys are just amazing. Let us know if we can ever help, and make sure to pass on any good information that you guys come across. That's how good information, that's how the world is changed, by spreading good information, whether it's our show or anything else.